Guys, welcome back. It's Coach Bob here, CrossFit Glen Burnie, and today in this video, we're going to give you the information that may help you answer some very important questions about how can I have more energy in life for doing the things that we want to do, perhaps performing better in our workouts, having I think I need more endurance, or I want more energy. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at not just nutrition and not just the workout, but we're going to look at the part where those two things meet, where nutrition and workouts come together and where that energy is actually created for us. Okay, so today it's a deep subject, folks. So grab your water or grab something, because we're going to do this together. And hopefully today in this video together, we can learn a good bit about something that will really help us to understand how we go about delivering energy to do useful work in life. And hopefully in that way, develop a better understanding about the kinds of things we can do to make that better, whether that's the nutrition or our workouts and whatnot. So we're going to dig down deep inside. I've got a Wikipedia article we're going to step through together on a topic that I don't think many people are talking about, but it's very important. So let's do this together. We're going to switch on over to my Wikipedia article. And tonight what we're going to be talking about is cellular respiration. We're not going to kind of go to like the deepest, darkest level of cellular respiration. We just want to get a simple understanding of what cellular respiration is, what are some of the mechanisms behind it, and then that'll hopefully help us to develop a better understanding to give ourselves the knowledge to make good choices in life. Okay, so let's go take a look at what we've got with cellular respiration. So cellular respiration is what cells are doing to break up the sugars or the stored energy to get energy that they can use. And cellular respiration takes in food and uses it to create ATP, a chemical which the cells use for energy. This is I'm taking this from simple.wikipedia.com. And so they've taken a complex subject and they're simplifying it and making it a little easier for us to understand in just what they call simple English. So it may not be like 100% like exactly the processes that are going on, but it's getting us pretty darn close to understanding what's going on. So actually, what's happening, there's two parts to metabolism. The anabolic part, where we are building up the stored energy through the process of eating good nutrition and storing away energy that we can use later. And this could be in a lot of different forms, but let's just imagine that by eating good, healthy foods, we're storing away good energy that our bodies can use. So if we don't have good nutrition, we're not going to be storing up good energy that we can use down the road. Okay. The second part of metabolism is the catabolic part. That's taking the stored energy, breaking it apart, and using it to do work. Cellular respiration is kind of like that part where all that process is happening. I was going to say the magic's happening, but we're going to make the magic, we're going to peel that curtain away a little bit and look at what's happening there. We're going to assume that we've already had that good nutrition and stored up energy, that part's working. And what we're going to look at is the part that's going to take that stored energy now and deliver energy to the working cells. And you can imagine if that process is struggling somewhat, if that cellular respiration is struggling to create that energy and deliver it to the cells are not going to be very energetic. They're not going to be able to do the work. Our muscle cells would be a good example of how they're just not going to perform to where we want them to be. So usually this process is using oxygen, and that's our aerobic respiration. And it's got 4 stages known as glycolysis, link reaction, the Krebs cycle, and the Electron Transport cycle, We're not going to dig down deep into each one of those, but we will touch on those a little bit. In each one of those cycles, the process is generating ATP, which is the molecule that's going to supply the energy that the cell needs to do work. If there's not enough oxygen there at the cells, then it's going to be anaerobic. Now, this is the point where I think I want us to think a little bit about what we experience when we do a workout in the gym, right? Or some of the things that we think about. I've got the Wikipedia article behind me, but when we think about like doing a workout and we say, oh, this one's aerobic or this one's really anaerobic, what's going on? We're breathing, our heart's beating, and that's the delivery aspect of the whole thing, right? So by breathing, what we're doing is we're taking in oxygen and then exchanging that oxygen inside of the lungs so that the blood can transport that oxygen to the cells. So that whole delivery mechanism is important. And we're not talking about that tonight. That's not cellular respiration. That's just respiration, right? And your circulatory system. That can be developed as well. And so that's definitely part of what's getting adapted when we do workouts and as we do train and build up our endurance and aerobic endurance. That whole delivery, right? Is our heart strong enough to beat and pump blood to the working muscles? And are we breathing appropriately and bringing in that oxygen? Is that oxygen getting into our lungs? And do we have the iron and the hemoglobin to deliver that oxygen to the working cells? So that's all the delivery system. Okay, with that in mind now, we can kind of get into the details of the cellular respiration, which is that oxygen now is already in the blood and it's at the cell and it's ready to do some good work. So let's jump back into this Wikipedia article here. And if I have enough oxygen being delivered to the working cell, then that's aerobic respiration. But if I don't have enough oxygen, then we have those anaerobic systems that are going to produce the lactic acid. And it produces carbon dioxide as a waste product. We're breathing out all the time, right? So that carbon dioxide gets back into the lungs where it's exchanged for more oxygen. So the simple formula for the aerobic cellular respiration is this formula right here. So we have a molecule of glucose, 6 molecules of oxygen, 6, and then that gets exchanged or transforms into 6 carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water, and what we've been after, which is the energy as ATP. So we got glucose and oxygen that gives us that respiration of carbon dioxide, water, and energy. So by breathing and having enough oxygen, we can deliver energy to the working cells. It's interesting to kind of look at this because we talk about sugar like it's the enemy sometimes, right? But glucose is what is required for us to have energy. And that glucose comes about through the process of eating food. Protein can get broken down into the glucose for the body, the fat can also get broken down and processed by the liver to create and store molecules that can be used in this. In the end, a simple model is that we are taking glucose, adding oxygen, and creating energy from it. So it's very important that we get all 3 of our macronutrients, our carbohydrates, our protein, and our fats, so that our metabolism can store away the appropriate amount of food without spiking our blood sugar and having ill effects like creating extra fat cells and things like that. So when we think about our nutrition, we want you to be thinking about a balanced meal with that plate method and having the appropriate levels of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats so your body can get these equations to work out if you want to think of it that way. So aerobic cellular respiration has 4 stages. So now we're just looking at what's happening in the body. And this is happening in all of these different cells in your body at a molecular level. So let's dig into this. So there's glycolysis, which is the breakdown of the sugar, the glucose. There is a link reaction, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport, which is delivering that energy to the working cells. So we got a nice little flow chart. We take some glucose, a little bit of energy. We go through this process called glycolysis. Oxygen's involved in that. And then we have if we have enough oxygen, then it goes down this path where we have the oxidative pathway. And that is widely known as the Krebs cycle, and it delivers that electron transport to the working cells. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more. I don't know about the role of the mitochondria there, but basically, this is where we're going to get a lot of energy from that transport of energy to the working cells. If there's not enough oxygen present, then we have what's broadly termed fermentation, which will result in lactic acid or possibly ethanol. I think most of the time we're getting this lactic acid path here. We'll talk in a future episode about this path here, because I think that this is something that we got to be careful not to create this. So your body can actually create a little bit of alcohol. This is bad, right? So the whole process of cellular respiration is going to, number one, I want you to think about, depends on oxygen. So if we are not bringing on board enough oxygen, that whole delivery mechanism, heart and lungs, then we're going to be generating a good bit of lactic acid. If we can get that oxygen present and we can get through enough oxygen to kick off the oxidative pathway, then we're going to be able to deliver good energy to that cell. So let's dig in a little bit more. So glycolysis, we have glucose in the cytoplasm. It's broken down into 2 molecules of pyruvate. And we got a bunch of enzymes that are needed for a bunch of intermediate compounds in the process. So we got all these little chemical reactions that are happening all the time to generate and deliver this energy. Coach Bob's energy right now happening. And the substrate level, we've got 4 molecules of ATP. We don't want to get into that detail. And then in cells which use oxygen, the pyruvate is used in the second process, the Krebs cycle, which produces more ATP molecules. So let's see. So I think we got enough of that. And I don't want to go into too much detail of that, but there's a lot of stuff going on at the chemistry level inside of the cells to get that reaction happen. Must have enough oxygen. Link reaction. So we got that pyruvate from the glycolysis, and it's being pumped into the mitochondria. So 1 carbon dioxide molecule and 1 hydrogen molecule are removed from the pyruvate, called oxidative decarboxylation, to produce an acetyl group, which joins in with the enzyme CoA to form acetyl-CoA. That's why I was getting CoA. And this is essential for the Krebs cycle. So you're you're breaking that down, you're delivering it off to the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle is the main thing we think about when we think about the aerobic system, right? That we got enough oxygen and we've got that long, slow distance. So acetyl-CoA joins with acetate to form a compound with 6 carbon atoms, and that's the first step. And there's a very complicated looking Krebs cycle. And I think the main thing we want to pull out from that the process is generating the ATP, which carries the energy in chemical form to be used in the cellular process. One thing I want you to recognize is that we have this mitochondria in cells. And that is it's important to have enough mitochondria and mitochondria that is functioning properly in order for this to actually work well. And the health and wellness of your mitochondria are very important to being able to generate, produce this cellular respiration. And if the mitochondria aren't trained up and ready to go, then we're not going to be able to deliver that energy to the working cells as efficiently as we need to. And we know as we develop our aerobic system that we are building up the health and fitness of our mitochondria so we can get that cellular respiration working very well. Electron transport, this is where most of the ATP is made. All the hydrogen molecules which have been removed in the prior steps are pumped inside of the mitochondria using energy that the electrons are releasing. So this is amazing stuff. So eventually the electrons powering the pumping of the hydrogen into the mitochondria mix with some of the hydrogen and oxygen to form water, and the hydrogen molecules stop being pumped. So there's a nice balance going on with that. Eventually, the hydrogen flows back into the cytoplasm of the mitochondria through protein channels. This is just that cellular respiration when we have enough oxygen. And the main thing that we want to get out of all of this is that our nutrition is helping us out with the first part of it as far as like storing away that energy. But the workouts are training up our mitochondria, getting us at a near threshold where we are pushing up against some of those channels inside of the flow chart where we're a little bit on that lactic acid part and a little bit on that Krebs cycle, so that we can develop all of those channels of delivering oxygen to the working oxygen and ATP to the working cells so that we can do work. So if you find that you don't have the energy that you think you should have, then we need to look at some of the things that are happening in and around our environment and what we're feeding our body, as well as the workouts that we're doing to make sure that they are developing and moving us along. So, checking up on our nutrition, the sleep to recharge our system, and to make sure that we have appropriate levels of intensity in our workouts so that we can continue to train and adapt and build those energy systems so that they can produce and deliver the energy that we need to power life. Thank you guys so much for sticking through, the 2 or 3 of you that made it all the way this far. Good job. Take care, have a good night, and peace.